The NFL is back, baby. We're about an hour and 20 out from the season kicking off in Los Angeles. Buffalo Bills, Los Angeles Rams, and I see you already in the chat. Yeah, the Cardinals are screwed. Had some good news today, but yeah, then some bad news. Of course, welcome to PHNX Cardinals podcast presented to you by DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit the like button, smash it, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, leave that 5-star review. Brack hanging out with Damien Anderson. DA, what's going on, man?
Bo, what's good? I know that we have a lot of to talk about today. Obviously, football's backed up. As you mentioned, I'm excited. The Bills, some great quarterbacks against some great defenses. I have a little bias. One of my buddy's son plays for Buffalo, so I have a little bit of skin in the game, but I'm excited to talk about these Cardinals.
Hey, even more incentive Cardinals fans to root against the hated Rams, root for the Buffalo Bills. You know, one of the AFC darlings, I saw a graphic the other day where all the NFL Network analysts were basically saying they picked the Bills to be at least in the Super Bowl. They got a squad. This is a hell of an opener tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they can play, and they got one key piece that the Rams had last year in Von Miller. And we know, I don't know if him joining the team early, right, benefits them, but, I mean, they got it locked down at every position, mainly at that quarterback position, what Josh Allen can do. I mean, he's the more physical, which we've seen Patrick Mahomes. It's just really who's ever going to get the ball last type of guy. He's dynamic. As you mentioned, Bo, having those signature moments. Josh Allen can do it all. And it just seems like that whole team is in a comfort zone, right? And they can play with anybody on any stage and play some good football this year.
They seem to be taking those like steps that you see franchises sometimes take, right? They get the quarterback right, they build the team, they get a little taste of the playoffs. The quarterback is not good in the playoffs. He gets back there, he improves, he becomes MVP caliber. Last year, they're 13 seconds away in an incredible divisional round game against the Chiefs. And the guys and the team that the Cardinals are going to play week one do what they do all the time and just defy like science and odds and all that. And now they're, this team seems primed to take the next step. And that could be an AFC championship game. It could be a Super Bowl appearance. It could be hoisting the Lombardi trophy. And the Arizona Cardinals are hoping to do take their next step this season as they open up the season against Mahomes and crew. And things are getting a little tougher, DA, as we break down this matchup and start to preview it. Our full preview show is going to be tomorrow. Johnny Venerable will be back on this show, but it's tough. I mean, with the news that Markus Golden's back, let's start there because we'll get into the Rondale Moore injury later in the podcast. But Markus Golden returning, their main pass rusher, double-digit sats. We know that he's got the nonstop motor. What does this do for the Arizona Cardinals?
I mean, it's just confidence. And I know that, Bo, we've talked about the Arizona Cardinals in their front office hedging their bets offensively, but still they have to play defense. And having a guy like Markus Golden, I believe for Vance Joseph, just gives him a huge sigh of relief, right? So schematic-wise, he can control and manipulate and bring guys like Isaiah, Isaiah, as well as Collins and Budda Baker up on the line of scrimmage and playing those games. I don't think that you could be as aggressive with Markus Golden out of the lineup, right? Because you have an athletic quarterback in Patrick Mahomes who likes to get out of the pocket, be creative. And when you have a guy like Markus Golden who's a consistent producer, double-digit sacks, as you mentioned, Bo, and you're going to need to contain him, and you're going to need to get pressures. And Markus Golden is a guy that has done that consistently over his career. So I think not only does it give the whole entire defense confidence, but mainly Vance Joseph and his ability to draw up, different blitzes and schematically, with that defensive athletic secondary that they have.
I mean, VJ's defenses are predicated on getting negative plays, creating pressure on first and second down. And if you don't have Markus Golden, you really can't. You're handicapped in doing that. Like, you have to get production out of places that we've never seen production from. Victor Dumakaji, who became, a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end to a stand-up outside linebacker. You're encouraged with what you saw in the preseason, but, can you really rely upon him getting number 15 down or, getting a TFL against Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it'd be nice to see, but consistently getting that pressure. What we know about the Junkyard Dog is he brings it each and every play. Like, he is just nonstop, and that motor is going to be so paramount for this defense when you've got a lot of young guys or guys that are unproven, like Dennis Gardeck coming back, 1 year removed from the injury. I mean, this is a huge addition to this defense. JJ Watt was sidelined once again. I saw a question about Zach Ertz from our guy Sly. I'll answer that in just a bit. But and then we've got, strength and conditioning coach Buddy Morris. Like, his reputation is on the line about all these injuries. But really, before we get into that, I just think that Markus Golden, Vance Joseph kind of finally shed some light on what the heck's been going on. Everybody wanted to speculate. It seemed very eerily similar to DJ Humphries in the GI. And if you're listening to the podcast that threw up the quotes, the GI, gastrointestinal issue that he had that cleared up miraculously when he signs an extension. But I guess it was a freak accident.
You haven't heard of that, Bo?
I haven't.
You haven't heard of that?
I'd like to find out on my own, right?
Yeah, I heard of millions. They do about a stomach good, bro, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's the magic elixir that's gonna make you feel 100 millions of bucks. So, but man, this is huge for the Cardinals defense, because they just didn't. I mean, you say what you like. I mean, all their talent is on the back end of this. They needed somebody up front that was going to make some noise, and I think Golden. It really seems like he's going to be ready to play come Sunday, and that's a huge boost for this defense.
It's everything. I mean, you talk about this team's the past year, the successes or lack thereof, and there's a lot of question marks, as you mentioned, Bo. The secondary, there's some key pieces there, but outside of Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, and Isaiah Simmons, and maybe Byron Murphy, there's a lot of question marks here on this defense. With, I know that we're going to get into with the injury report, guys like JJ Watt. Like, you love that you have him. You love that he's a part of the team, but you haven't had that consistency over an extended period of time. You haven't had that with your ball club. So to have a guy like Junkyard Dog in the lineup, it means everything. Consistent pressure, consistent effort, and a guy that could get the job done. And not to mention, Bo, he doesn't have to come off the football field. Right? Like, I know that you mentioned some young talent there, but he's playing first, second, and third down and can stop the run and get to the quarterback. So everything that you want when you drop a football player, outside linebacker / defensive end, is a guy like Markus Golden. And knowing that he's playing, Vance Joseph's got to be sleeping a little bit better at night. A little bit better, because as we know, we're going to get into the injury report. There's still a lot of issues over there.
Yeah, there's a ton. And, but as far as your returning sack king for the Cardinals roster itself, and their best run stopper, it wasn't Chandler Jones, it was Markus Golden. It's a huge boost. And then they can just play the hot hand if they want in that young, pass rusher rotation. One note I'll add here, we talked to Vance Joseph today during his media availability. I mean, it does legitimately sound like Devon Kennard, who made his way back onto this roster via practice squad, and then he was like second on the depth chart, which I heard was a respect thing. They wanted to show him the respect. That it really does seem like he's going to get elevated. The way VJ was talking, and it was just all about roster gymnastics and them trying to figure out how they're going to deal with these injuries and not having to IR guys and not have to release some other names on this roster. Devon Kennard was somebody that they could waive, bring back in the practice squad, and then also potentially put on the 53 or the game day roster, and could be seeing some significant snaps. So now you have two veterans as your linebacker core. If those young guys, if the moment's a little bit too big come Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, but when you want that transition to happen, when you want that experience to happen with the young guys, you want that veteran leadership there, right? So you don't want all the pressure necessarily to be on those young guys, or all that emphasis put on them, where they're just getting into the game. They know that it's situational and they only have to do one or two things, right? We talked about this paralysis by analysis. You don't want the guys thinking too much. You want them just, being athletic, getting up the field and making plays, and or just doing their job. So to have a guy like Kennard, to have Golden in the lineup, it takes a lot of pressure off the young guys, where they could just go out there and not feel as though that they have to go out there and make a play, and they could just go out there and play football.
I see you, Sly. I see you, KR Gordon 08, saying we're screwed week 1. Sly's asking about Zach Ertz, how his fantasy football is depending on his availability. I mean, what we heard from Cliff Kingsbury. Now, Ertz didn't practice today, practiced yesterday. They're going to be smart with Ertz, who's been out basically since week 1 of training camp. It's going to be probably on a snap count. Max Williams is full go. Trey McBride is a full go. You need Ertz to have a big day fantasy-wise. I don't think that's going to be your answer. Doesn't sound like he's going to be, TE1 for this Cardinals team week 1. But we appreciate everybody chiming in with the chat. Keep doing that. Hit that like button. We really appreciate it. We're going to get into this with the good news about Markus Golden, get into some tough news. But first, here's some really good news. Gametime. Gametime is the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets and sports concerts and shows. Save up to 60% on tickets when you buy the tickets last minute. It's great for procrastinators like myself, somebody who's hitting up Damien Anderson just an hour before the damn show to join me on the show. It's a perfect app for me, and it's a perfect app for you to go out there and get yourself some seats to the big game, including the one going down on Sunday, Kansas City on the road at Arizona. Who doesn't want to see a season opener? Get out there. You got the big flag on the field. You got the anthem. You got all the sights and sounds and just the emotion of week one. Despite all the injuries, it's going to be a great time, and Gametime is going to get you there. It's the best way. Support your PHNX. Check us out. Show them that you're buying your tickets. Use the link in the description of this show on YouTube. It's just in the details below or wherever you're listening to your podcast. The Gametime app, Gametime website. Check them out. Get your seats from here on forward on Gametime. Also got to tell you about OGeez. OGeez brands that also enhance your game day or anything you're doing, and they want to give you some free stuff. They're flavoring life sweepstakes. One winner is going to receive not one, not two, but 3 bags of their incredible gummies, including the orange creamsicle flavor. You can get an OGeez hat, PHNX shirt of your choice like this one, and that PHNX annual membership. It helps you read all the great work from Howard Balzer, who's just churning out incredible content right now about the Cardinals. Sign up at gophnx.com. Click the link in the show notes. Check out OGeez at OGeezBrands.com and on Instagram at OGeezBrands. You can buy their products at your local dispensary. You got to be 21 years or older. All right, let's get into that injury report. Producer Shane had it up on the screen. Let's take a look at this thing. It's way too damn long. I mean, as far as the rest of the NFL, there aren't many injury reports that rival the Arizona Cardinals. Markus Golden's back out there. Says he was limited. He looked pretty good to me. Looked spry, looked fast. Rodney Hudson just had the rest day. He was back out there today. Trayvon Mullen didn't practice for the second straight day. He's got that surgically repaired toe. Damien doesn't sound like he's going to play, make his Cardinals debut week 1. J.J. Watt, second straight practice. He's not out there nursing the calf. The team's hopeful that he can be in the lineup come Sunday. Aaron Brewer, the long snapper, he's back out there. Look, I mean, it's good that he's a full practice. It's good that you're going to get your long snapper back, but some bigger issues here. Ertz didn't practice. Cody Ford was limited. He's got an ankle. Rondale Moore was something. This is the big news of the day because I was out there in the open portion and Rondale Moore looked like he was full speed. So this must have happened once the reporters were sent back inside. And according to Aaron Wilson of the Pro Football Network, he has a source on this, and he said that it looks like it's a serious issue. He's going to have an MRI on it. And I got to imagine that probably takes Rondale outside of a miracle out of this lineup.
Yeah, it's concerning, Bo, but as a Cardinals fan and as a former, player playing the game, I'm not that concerned. So I like what there is with Dortch and Isabella. Yeah. And I just, in terms of matchups, right, guys fitting the bill and guys, being able to come in and play that position at a high level. And although that we continue to talk about Dortch and his ability, and it was preseason, but you saw him at practice every day, Bo. You saw him out there making, plays, and Andy has a chip on his shoulder. I mean, it sucks, right? No one wants to be hurt, but in the game of football, it's next man up, and you have to go out there and do your job. What you do like, you got Hollywood, you have A.J. Green, who had damn near 900 yards last year. Zach Ertz, I know, is going to be iffy, but he has, over 700 yards. So you're excited about the pieces that you have, and I don't think it's going to be one of those dramatic reactions like impacts like we think it's going to have because of the depth that they have at that position, Bo. Having a guy like Dortch puts a little bit of comfort there. Having Andy have the preseason that he did puts a little bit of comfort there because we know they're that similar body type, and they all can play that position at a high level.
There's a couple things, that are concerning. Well, one, I mean, it just tempers the expectations of this breakout year for Rondale Moore and delays it a little bit. It doesn't mean it can't happen. Yeah. I think.
But hammies are lingering though, Bo. Yeah,
they are. I mean,
yeah.
It kept sucks. Him, it kept the same injury, a hamstring injury, kept him out 8 games his sophomore year at Purdue, and so it's something that can linger and something you feel like you can get back, and then it's just going to come out of nowhere and bite you again. And you're not going to be healthy for an entire season. So you hope the Arizona Cardinals can get him at least figured out with the MRI, the severity of it, and how they can get him back, and when to get him back. I agree with you. I think it's a great point about Dortch. Dortch, Isabella. I mean, who steps in? I mean, as far as just positionally, I think Dortch is probably more well-versed to play the slot. That's where they were anticipating playing, Rondale a little bit more this season. But, if you can move Hollywood to the slot, you're not moving AJ there. I think that Andy Isabella is more of an outside guy. So if he's going to get in there, it's because somebody else has moved into the slot, who were going to originally play outside. But it's a big blow. And like I said, he missed 8 games in Purdue. He was limited to 7 games over his final 2 seasons for the Boilermakers. Played 14 last year, more like a concussion. He had a neck injury and he had an ankle injury last year. So to kind of see his hamstring flare up again, it's just a bummer for those who wanted to see more breakout right from the jump.
Yeah, Bo. I mean, it's because you have a certain expectation. As you mentioned, a player being drafted where he was drafted in the 2nd round, having glimpses, last year of his productivity and what we saw from him his freshman year. I remember I was at that game. And, our son had to go back to the archives and remember, just all the stats and details. But, I mean, he went off. He had a day. And again, we saw pieces of that last year with just his athleticism, strength, and speed. So, to me, you're not necessarily going to replace that with guys like Isabella or Dortch, but with the combination of it, as you mentioned, Bo, whether it be moving Hollywood inside, wherever there's going to free up opportunities, I think for their best athletes is going to be the best way to go for Cliff in his play calling. But I think not having it out there is just concerning and disheartening because you had a certain expectation of what this offense is going to do. And as we know, I mean, I don't want to say that we as fans or as analysts take things for granted, but you almost just expect, right, them to be healthy and go out there and play. But this is a game when, especially when they're moving those muscles all the time. It's like the Jameis Winston, quote yesterday, the ankle are like the wrists are like the ankles, you know what I mean? The elbows are like the knees. You know what I mean? Like it's when you're moving and doing that much torque and you're a fast twitch guy like Rondale, I don't want to say it's bound to happen, but it's just unfortunately it's just common. And that's why guys, when they get to that level and they have that opportunity to be around those resources, you want to do everything that you can to preserve your body, man. But unfortunately, we're seeing it here, right? The week of game week, and Rondale goes down, and it's a blow for the Cardinals.
Well, I mean, what can you think about what may be causing, calf issues, hamstring issues? Is it just the game? Is it just, I mean, because a lot of people looked at this training camp and they're like, the stars aren't playing in the preseason, like they better be healthy, and they're one of the, most injured rosters in the league. Do you have any concern about what's going on?
I mean, yes and no, right? I mean, you would have to do like some type of data analysis, Bo, to find out, the commonality amongst injuries in camp, right? And then compare it to all of those to have I'd say a good guesstimate of what it looks like, right? So, I mean, does it feel? I think because we're personally connected to it, does it feel like it's a bit much? It does. You know what I mean? Especially when you got guys like Hop that are down, right? You got a guy like that, you're missing him, and then JJ Watt's been, in and out of the lineup. Kyler was injured last year. There's just a lot of, uncertainty going on, and as you go into the season, you want to feel great about it. You want to have that, we're, at 100%, we're ready to go, and you feel great about the offensive or defensive unit that you put on the football field. And having these guys show up and not practice, that's concerning. Not to me. I think it's a rest day for Ertz, right? So I'm not too concerned about that. And I think he's a vet that knows how to, come in and play. And I think it's caution over valor with a lot of these guys. And most importantly, like, we had almost a mental breakdown when Rodney Hudson wasn't showing up to camp. And, he showed up, and all indicators are pointing to that he's going to be playing, come 9/11. So I try to think that the coaches are being, like I said, being conservative right now as they lead up into the season because those plays are so valuable. But it's still something you still got to be worried about, Bo. I mean, yes, they have a good team, but I think we all need them all to be healthy in order to go out there and play.
I'm really interested to see, I obviously I'm excited about, we're sitting here precipice of the 2022 season kicking off here in just a few minutes. But like, I'm interested to see how Cliff runs his training camp next year. If it's the same, like if they decide to take so much time, they have the downtime, if rest is the key and just hurry up and wait for the green light to kick off the regular season. I just don't know. It's almost like and this is going to sound silly to most of the people watching, the football gods. We're like, we have preseason games for a reason. Guys got to play. So I don't know.
Bo, there's philosophies for all of it. It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Like it's like, you Baltimore Ravens, they've been undefeated how many, games in a row, right? So I mean, you have some coaches that don't play their guys. Like, all right, they're proven. I mean, they know that it's more risk versus reward in the preseason. So I get it. I do get it, but at the same time, you got to understand there's different bosses across the National Football League, so everybody's going to do it differently. But you just got to appreciate when you're a player that you have a cliff camp, that you just don't get hurt. You know what I mean? Like, you appreciate it, but you just take care of your body.
Right, exactly. It's just got to be ready to go. That's my main focus. But it's such a tough game, and when you got to get out there and maybe you haven't. It's not that you haven't trained correctly, but you kind of exert your body in such a different way than it's unnatural. And these injuries just happen even to a young player like Rondale Moore. It's just brutal. I see in the comments, and I want to get to them in just a minute, about, maybe a way that the Arizona Cardinals can combat all these injuries, especially to the wide receiver core and not having Hop. And I mentioned it yesterday. I know our resident running back's going to love it, but got to tell you about Underdog Fantasy and their pick'em game. It's unreal. Just look at your favorite or least favorite players, their stats, pick between 2 to 5 players for your pick'em entry, and whether you think they'll end up with higher or low total than the stat in this week's game. You can start tonight on Underdog Fantasy with the Bills and Rams. Get your picks right, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. It's an incredible deal. It's going to get you hooked. I'm on Underdog Fantasy, and I was playing Major League Baseball games all the way up until tonight. Now, that's a thing of the past. I'll still dabble, but it's all about the NFL. Let's talk about, we got different Cardinals players that are going to get some opportunities, and we'll figure out who we want to throw our underdog fantasy lineup. But you can search the App Store right now. Click the show link or the link in the show notes. Sign up with the promo code PHNX, and Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code PHNX, and get in the action today. Do it right now because you can get in on the action in just a few minutes. Join us Saturday. It's 4 Peaks. We're going to be hanging out watching the ASU Sun Devils game against Oklahoma State. I'm a man. I'm 40. Mike Gundy coming to town. Those Cowboys. They're going to be hanging out 3:30 p.m. ASU watch party. PHNX Sun Devils, the entire crew, a bunch of us from PHNX Sports are going to be hanging out, enjoying the food. Got drink specials. They got a heck of a good time on tap in a massive screen. Apparently they're going to change it up there. They've got screens all over the place. They got games all over the restaurant and the brewery, but you got a massive screen where you can watch the Sun Devils take on the Cowboys. Should be a good game. Check the link in the show notes as well for that. Sign up for free to our watch party. Check out PHNX_sports on Twitter. You'll get the link there. You got to be 21 years or older, of course, if you can enjoy those delicious 4 Peaks brews. Okay. Run the damn ball. What do we think about it? Is that a good way to combat all this? Maybe no Ertz, no Rondale Moore. You got Max Williams back. Trey McBride showed some potential as a blocker. I saw one of our guys in the chat talking about how McBride seems like he's full go. What do you think? James Conner day?
I don't know, Bo. I mean, I for sure, yeah. I want the running backs to eat, but I think that in this offense, the run complements the pass, not the other way around. I think that they're pass dominant. I mean, we just look at the money that they've spent, right? I mean, granted, I know you have to do what you have to do to win football games, but you got guys like Hollywood Brown. You got guys like K1. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that there's going to be opportunities where K1 has to extend plays, get first downs, and use his legs. Now, I don't know what the stat is, but anytime that he rushes the ball between like 40 and 80 yards, I think the Cardinals are undefeated. He's going to need a game like that due to the guys that they're missing and potential, ailments of guys like Ertz, right? But I think that setting up that run and having a day like we've seen in the past with Connor, and other backs complimenting him, like, Chase back, last year, they can do that. I think that could definitely happen with, Williams or Eno, or even, I'm not sure if Keontae will dress, but definitely with Connor on those inside zone stuff, because the great thing about it, they run it out of that shotgun. And with Kyler, it's almost like a three-way go. Bo, he can either pass it, run it himself, or hand it off.
They're going to need that. I mean, they're going to need the full bag of tricks from their quarterback, and every, why he earned every single dime and that $230.5 million. You're going to want to see that on full display, because you need it if you want to kind of compete with a team, that has the expectations of the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's, Super Bowl or bust. Keontae, I will say, and I don't think we have the clip ready, and I didn't have anybody set it up, but in the future, I'll ask Keontae about working out with our guy DA, getting him ready for the draft. Very complimentary, and love this time hanging out with our resident running back. You'll get to hear from Keontae Ingram, if not by the end of this week, next week. We talk to the rookie running back. But yeah, it should be interesting to see, what his role is. 5 guys, Ward's probably going to be in his normal special teams kind of role, and then you've got the 3 running backs at the top. That JC, and then it's Eno and Darrell Williams kind of figuring out the rest of the way. But I think if you can get James Conner, and obviously with in mind that you don't want him to go exceed 80% of the snaps at the running back position, if they can win that time of possession, if they can churn out yards and set up second, third, and manageable for Kyler Murray, that makes him that much more dangerous. And he can run the ball for the first down, or he can rely on the wide receivers that are healthy, including Easy, saying Greg Dortch. Yeah, I'd love to see Greg Dortch. Maybe he can play that Rondale Moore role that he played last year, where it's kind of around the line of scrimmage, running the football. They still have playmakers. They weren't short on them before.
Bo, they got enough guys that can run the football. You know what I mean? I think that, to Greg's credit, right, he's just demonstrated that he's a great wide receiver and that he could play in this league and he could find ways to get open. To me, they got enough guys that can do their job. Obviously, with the running back, I like Darrell Williams as the best complement in terms of body size, running style of James Conner. I think that that's going to create mismatches too, just with their athleticism at the position, the fact that they like to throw the ball to the running backs out of the backfield. So, we saw that of Eno's big catch in the preseason. We've seen that from that same play from James Conner throughout the season. So I think that Cliff does a great job of looking for vulnerabilities in defenses. So I don't think it's going to be, a problem moving the ball down the field. I just think it's going to be like that timing of when it has to happen. I don't want them to force the run, because I think that they're so talented offensively in passing the ball, and having a guy like Kyler Murray and putting such a huge investment, making trades for Hollywood, having a guy like Zach Ertz, drafting a guy in the second round, despite all we've seen he's done is block, but catching the football, right? I think that run is going to complement the pass, and it's going to, take, guys like Dortch and Isabella stepping up in potentially, Rondale Moore's absence. But I think that I like Rondale Moore as a receiver. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a playmaker, but you pick a guy where you picked him, you want that type of Kirk production, almost 1,000 yards, a playmaker on this football team that could have the ability to stretch the field. So that's what I'm looking at that position, looking for at that position.
Matthew Burgess wants the Murray magic. I hear you there. No bubble screens. Look, that's a part of the offense. Those aren't going anywhere, unfortunately. You just hope that there's better blocking downfield.
You see him every day, Bo?
Yeah, I can promise you that ain't going anywhere. But there is a forgotten man. I mean, I talk about the run game, but getting back to the passing attack. I mean, in Hollywood Brown's going to be a big part of that. And AJ Green, he's coming out of the gates. I know people say 34 years old, whatever. 800 yards. Here's a guy that's, as far as where his profile is, 6'4", can still get up there and out jump a lot of defenders still at his age. I think that he could have a sneaky good game for the Arizona Cardinals. And now it's becoming almost more a necessity than if he were to kind of fly under the radar. I mean, if Rondale Moore is out of there, Hollywood Brown, AJ Green are your top 2 targets.
And I think that you're okay with that, Bo. I mean, if you got Tom Brady playing at 44, 45 years of age, and I know it's different positions, but it wasn't like he played last year and tailed off. There was some miscommunication in certain games. Obviously, him and Kyler not being on the same page. But as you mentioned, having over 800 yards last year and not having to be in that number one role, I think it bodes well for him because he's going to win. He's going to play on that off DB. Most of the time, he's not going to be double teamed, and just with his catch radius, he's going to have the ability to out athlete or boss some of the defenders, right? And some of it's just calling plays and him getting open. But I think that a lot of attention is going to be put on Hollywood, right? Of that emphasis. I mean, who wouldn't, right? They're former teammates. They made a trade. Everyone heard about it. They're probably going to double Hollywood, so that's going to create opportunities. Whoever's playing that tight end position, Dortch, Isabella, and obviously AJ Green. AJ Green's going to eat this year. And I know that there was that post and tweet in terms of comeback player of the year or offensive MVP or it was one of the categories, but I think that AJ Green is going to, slide in there and maybe, Johnny gets butthurt because he is 34. And I believe that Jalen Blair threw it, in the chat a little bit earlier, talked about the age of some of the guys. And maybe that's why, the injuries happen, Bo. And maybe it plays a part. You got to get your mineral intake up or, something, whatever it is, more consistent IVs. I don't know, but I just know that what we've seen from AJ Green has been productivity. Right. And I almost think that the fan base takes them for granted because you've had guys like D-Hop and Christian Kirk who make all the more, I'd say, high profile catches, right, or get a majority of that notoriety. And AJ doesn't get that at 34.
Well, and I think that Hollywood gives you something that Kirk didn't, and that's kind of a true number one in the absence of D-Hop. And AJ Green can continue to be, that wide receiver too, that Z spot in that lineup and just play that role so well as he did before Hopkins really went out. And then AJ, just by default had to become that number one because Kirk didn't step up and Rondale was dealing with issues here and there. And they had injuries all up and down their lineup. But in AJ Green, Father Time came kind of knocking at the end of last season, but he's fresh right now. He's got Hollywood. He's got a fresh Kyler Murray. The Cardinals have a solid offensive line to start the season. There are a few more positives. It is a big loss with Rondale Moore potentially. We'll see, what would be a bigger loss, more on the offensive side or J.J. Watt potentially on the defensive side. But you talk about just being hydrated. Let me tell you, you might be noticing that there's some strange tall boys showing up every once in a while, wherever you kind of look, especially if you watch a podcast. I've been drinking them here. Liquid Death. It's mountain spring water, actually. You think that it's like a hardcore tall boy, and I'm cracking and putting back a few cold ones while the show's going on. Now, that wouldn't be unprecedented. It has happened. I've had a few Four Peaks before, but Liquid Death is just a delicious sparkling water. And is it called Liquid Death? Because it will brutally murder your thirst. That's what it does. And finally, a recyclable tall boy can helping you bring death to plastic bottles. That's why it's called Liquid Death. They also donate 10% of profits in every can sold to help kill the plastic pollution. Get Liquid Death at your local Target, Fry's, Sprouts. You've got Liquid Death retailer near you. Their store locator, liquiddeath.com/PHNX. That's liquiddeath.com/PHNX. We got ASU watch party going on Saturday. We've got our tailgate show going on Sunday. Lots of things going on where we want you to be healthy. COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older now eligible for the booster. Visit azhealth.gov/find-vaccine to find a location near you. Okay. Howard Balzer, DA, joined us as a writer. He's going to be just kind of pimping out our gophnx.com website with all the Cardinals material. Howard Balzer brings over 40 years of experience. He's a Hall of Fame voter. He actually does a radio show on behalf of the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Sirius XM. He's dialed in. He's out there at practice every day with me, and he just dropped a new article today. He's got 2 already up in 2 days. The guy's just churning out content, and the most recent one is about the Jalen Thompson contract and how truly team-friendly this thing is. It's really shocking some of the things they did. I'll give you one little tidbit that he was telling me about today at practice, that Jalen Thompson gets a $300,000 bonus if he gets elected to a Pro Bowl. And there are sources around the league that believe that that's going to be tough by playing in the same defensive secondary as Budda Baker. The Arizona Cardinals, hopefully Jalen Thompson can cash for his own good and gets, finally the credit he deserves as a Pro Bowler. But it's interesting, just very cap-friendly deal. The entire details, you got to check it out. Go PHNX.com.
Yeah, Bo. To me, like when I think about like the 300K, don't get me wrong. To most people, it is a lot of money. But when we think of that guaranteed money, right? Like, I mean, do you know, besides giving too much away, what he got in terms of guaranteed money? Where was he drafted at? Do we?
Yeah,
do we have any?
Yeah, 24.5 guaranteed dollars. $24.5 million is.
Yeah. Well, I ain't worried about 300K. You just laugh, bro. You laugh. So I mean, come on. Like we're like, all right. Like that's the last thing that I'm worried about. Like, I mean, okay. Right. I mean, kudos to you, Jalen Thompson. I don't think that he's worried about that. I think it would definitely help, right, in terms of a family vacation probably for him. But when you got them type of bills, he's doing all right. And I'm interested. I can't wait to read that article.
So if he misses out on the Pro Bowl, you're not going to be heading up a GoFundMe for Jalen Thompson?
I think he'll be all right. Bo, you laughed when you said the number because you knew it was $300,000 versus $24 million guaranteed. Dude is all right, man. He's going to be okay. He's going to be more than all right. 24 years old. He's doing just fine for himself. One of Steve Keim's proudest moments as GM, taking him in the 5th round of the supplemental draft. The last player, actually the only player right now in the NFL from the supplemental draft, Jalen Thompson. He's a big piece to this Arizona Cardinals defense. J.J. Watt, the calf missed a couple days. We'll wrap up with this. It just seems like it's unfortunate. I don't know. I feel like Markus Golden was a bigger addition to this defense than Watt at this point, just because fresh front. I know there's a couple unknowns. Zach Allen seems to be healthy. He can kind of play that role. You got Michael Dogby. Rashard Lawrence is poised for a big year. Lecky Fotu can rotate in there. They've got at least a rotation of guys that played NFL downs. It's not like the pass rush unit where there's a bunch of unknowns. Yeah, you want serviceable guys, but I don't think that they can account for the impact that you expect from a guy like J.J. Watt, right, Bo? Like when you have a J.J. Watt, you're thinking that you have a star on your defense. The unfortunate aspect of it is that we haven't been able to see that in its totality, and if that will even happen, right? Calf, I mean, I pulled one back in my playing days, and they're much like the hamstrings. It's going to take some time, and I know that there's been some improvements in tech and medicine, and I hope that's the case, but it sucks. I mean, as a Cardinals fan, to have that combination of players, you're excited about the depth, but you want to have a guy like J.J. Watt when you're going guy for guy against your buddy or in a fantasy or whatever, a guy at work, whoever you're talking to, you're talking about your hometown team. You want to count on a guy like J.J. Watt and JYD, and not having him, just brings a level of concern, I think, for the fan base. But I think at the same time, just like we talked about, could the Chiefs do the same thing and try and run the ball? And not having J.J. Watt in there is concerning, potentially, right? Potentially.
Yeah. And he would just give you another guy that has experience getting, the opposing quarterback on the ground.
J.J. Watt's a dog, though, Bo.
He is.
Yeah. When he's healthy, he's a dog. He's a grown man out there. I mean, and I know that we don't want to, not play it down or play it up, but he's a difference maker. So not having him is a problem. And I mean, I think that, like anything, it's about winning games. And Kansas City, I want to call them KFC. Kansas City is going to think of them as. That's blood in the water. They don't have one of their dogs out there, and they're young in the linebacker position. Let's just, take what we can get. And if it's successful running the ball, they may do that. But they still have one of the best at the quarterback position. So hopefully it's not one of those pick your poison type of situations, because the Cardinals have enough, firepower offensively to do the same.
I'm sure if this was a playoff game, much like last year, he's going. He's going to play, right? But at this point in the season, week 1, you kind of play the cautious card, or you look at the rest of the injury report and say, hey, we need this. We need JJ.
I think, Bo, it's going to be one of those conversations. It's context, it's facts and circumstances to everything, right? Yeah. Like, can you go? How bad? Is it a strain or is it a pull, right? It's like those old school. Are you hurt or are you injured? Really, that's the type of question that I would ask him, because that J.J. Watt has seen enough football to determine, hey, is this going to impact, is this one game worth the entire season, or do we need to rush you? So that he's one of those guys, multiple defensive player of the year. I'm going to have that talk with him to see how he's feeling. And if it's a no-go on that, as you mentioned, Bo, with that, depth of names that you just rattled off, they're going to have to step up and play at a high level. I mean, and wouldn't expect anything else.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Allen's a guy going into his final year of his contract, his rookie deal. He's going to have to
He's
kind of
going to
make
be
a name for
motivated.
himself. Yeah,
he's going to be motivated.
And he's been at JJ's shadow every day at training camp. I mean, he's right there behind JJ. He's asking him questions. It'd be a big time for him to step up. We'll see if they utilize somebody like Cameron Thomas, more of a pass rusher. I don't know if they anticipate him kind of moving inside, but they certainly have depth. But as you said, he's a dog, and he's somebody that you got the opportunity to get him out there on the field. You got to do that. We appreciate everybody tuning in, watching the show today. Johnny Venerable will be back. Big thank you to DA for pinch hitting. Make sure you're checking out gophnx.com for all the latest work from Howard Balzer. He's churning out some great stuff, including that Jalen Thompson contract in-depth analysis, plus looking at and trying to decipher this Arizona Cardinals injury report. He has a good article there as well. You got to be able to check it out. Gophnx.com to do that. Use the promo code Howard. Make sure that you're going to read his great work. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Make sure you like this video and you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. And also you check out all our great sponsors in the show notes. It's below us. And then also check us out wherever you find podcasts. Talk to you Friday afternoon on a new edition of PHNX Cardinals. Enjoy this game tonight. Rams, Bills, NFL's back, baby.